Hello and welcome back to Charging Status, the EV Focus podcast brought to you from The Interface. As always, I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Jim Starling. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm awesome, Alex.
Yeah, always.
How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. Yeah, I've had a busy few weeks,
Good.
but all going good.
Yeah, same here. It's been like absolutely mental lately. So yeah, nice to just sit and have a chat for an hour, really.
Yeah, pretty good.
Even though it is with you, but you can't have everything, can you?
Great, thanks. No, it's been pretty good. There was last week went so fast. There was Thursday. I went to the CV show 2024 actually. So that was up at the NEC in Birmingham. That was from Tuesday to Thursday. So I just went on the very last day because that's what I did last year, and it's just quieter. Tuesday sounded like it was just a mob of people, so I'd rather go when it's a bit quieter. Really good actually. I've got a video I'm working on, just some highlights of what I saw there. But Ford had a massive stand. They had the Electric Avenue area, so they had all their new vehicles. They had MSRT vehicles there, like super cool. There was some, I don't know if you've seen this before, there was some Canoe, there's a company called Canoe, and they make these little TARDIS type vans. They've only just moved to the UK, to be honest. That was their first show they went to. Like glass front, they look kind of like Rivian headlights, but they're made in America, and then they're scoping out the UK market, so they look quite cool. And then Maxus seem to use the CV show as their launch bed for new stuff. So last year was the eDeliver 7, year before was the T90, and this year was the Maxus 5. Mm-hmm. Looks a bit weird, and it feels a bit cheap in places. So you open the back doors and it feels a bit wobbly. But the price they're doing, I think they're trying to go head to head with the eTransit Custom, so that's like £35,000, the eDeliver 5. So
yeah,
I think
it's a bit of a knockoff ID Buzz fan, isn't it? Kind of.
Well, yeah. You go on the Maxus website and it actually says, so I think it says want ID Buzz, no eDeliver 5 or something along those lines. That they've actually named their competitor. Right. It's you don't do that. But anyway,
no, it's not. It's not like great darts, really, is it? But there we go. No. Good luck to them.
Yeah, no, it looks good. No, the whole event was pretty decent, to be honest. Weirdly, there was I don't know if you mentioned on the show, Ceres. I think there's an importer called Innovation Automotive. I think they had a weird little van there, but they also had the Ceres 3. I thought that felt quite cheap inside. Some materials are a bit weird, but overall it was pretty nice. But yeah, I thought Ford really drove it home. I think they were the highlight of the event. I mean, if you have food for free, I think people are going to say some good things. They had like some Ford waffles.
I'm in at that point. Yeah. Waffles, they're good for you.
Espresso proper coffee.
I think Ford,
as well.
I think Ford have got like more to shout about in the CV space at the moment, haven't they? Certainly when it comes to electric cars, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
Or electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Definitely much more to shout about on the commercial front than they have in private cars, really. I mean, obviously the Explorer's coming around, which looks quite interesting. Even though we know it's an ID5 with a different lid, but it does look like an interesting take on it. But otherwise, it's all a bit kind of nothing from Ford.
Yeah.
So great that they're sort of shouting loud about their commercial stuff.
And one thing I noted as well, like some of the people I follow on Twitter, they noted it as well, that the Ford staff were incredibly knowledgeable and incredibly friendly as well. I mean, they were there on hand to answer any questions about EV stuff. And the people we spoke to, they absolutely knew their stuff. So hats off to them. They seemed the most popular and the biggest sort of name there on the day. So it was good. So
that's really good. So often at those shows, manufacturers hire some very attractive people for a few days, but they don't necessarily know anything, and they'll always have to go and get someone for you when you ask a question. So it's great that they actually took people with the knowledge themselves.
Yeah, product leaders, managers, everything, they were there. So
yeah. Although I like attractive people too, but sometimes you just need a question to be answered, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a video coming up on the Interface Cars channel, like a 10-minute video just to whip around the highlights that I saw from the day. But no, overall pretty good. I'm looking forward to the next one. So it's all good. The other thing I've been up to is I've interviewed Steve Fowler. So those who don't know, he was the editor-in-chief, I think was his title, of Auto Express. And up until recently, that was pretty much up until recently. So we had a half an hour, 40-minute chat on the podcast. That episode will go out pretty soon, so hopefully in a few weeks' time. But that was really insightful. And just interesting to see, because he's been in the industry for such a long time, it's interesting to see where he came from and all the changes he's seen, and also like his advice for getting started, because he's done video work, he's done proper journalist work as well. So no, it was a really good chat. So well, look forward to that going out soon.
I've followed him for years. Like I can remember him on What Car, and I think he was on Autocar for a bit as well.
He was, yeah. That's what he said, yeah.
But I always really liked his videos. He used to do video reviews on it might have been on the What Car channel years ago, and he had that great thing where even though some of the videos always have a basic structure, don't they?
Yep.
It felt like free flowing, and you could just sit and listen. It didn't feel scripted, and there was the right amount of it being sort of a little bit humorous. I don't know, just found him like all his videos really engaging, and I think all his written stuff is always like really sensible and clearly put across, where obviously we know there are one or two that write out there and it's a bit like I am the Holy Grail and therefore you shall listen. I don't think his content ever comes across like that. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, very down to earth. He posts a lot on social media as well, so it's good.
He's working a bit on electrifying now, I think, and obviously he's freelance, so
yeah, he seems to be most of his stuff on electrifying.com. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Enough about me. What have you been up to? What have you got coming up in Jim's world?
So I've had like a million. Well, not a million, but I've produced a lot of videos in the last month.
Yeah, I noticed.
The start of 2024 has been really good for me on YouTube, and I'm trying not to let that sort of slip away. Obviously, that always happens because one video does well or two videos do well, and you get sort of a little bit of a knock-on effect for that for a little while. But I'm just trying to
ride that
keep
wave.
everything going. Yeah, and it's really tough. Like I had a day the other week where I was really busy, and I wasted a whole day just trying to come up with video ideas. And you know, I'm not digging ditches, I'm not sweeping chimneys for a living, but it's tough when you lose a whole day and you're just thinking, well, what can I make a video about that people actually want to see? And sometimes, you know, I've got one coming out tonight, which is a review of an Apple CarPlay display. And those kind of things just happen upon you. Someone sent me one and I thought, well, I'll make a video with this. But sometimes it takes quite a lot of thought. So there's been a lot of that, and then a lot of trial and error. I've made a couple of videos that I've sort of scrapped, and I've had lots of really good cars in, really good EVs in, actually, which we'll come on to in a minute. Coming up, I've got, I'm going to Goodwood Festival of Speed on the Thursday, the 11th of July. So if you'd like to come and say hello and you're there, just follow me on social media on one of the platforms and just drop me a message on the day, and phone signal permitting, I'll let you know where I am at that time and you can come and say hello. And then I'm also going to be at Piston Head's annual service on the 10th of August. That's at Bicester Heritage. My sponsor, ALA Insurance, has got a stand at the Piston Head's annual service, and I'll be floating around that and generally around the event for probably a fair amount of the day. And if you want anything from ALA Insurance, use the code Jim10 and you'll get 10% off.
Fantastic, yeah, some good stuff coming up. I've not heard of this Piston Heads annual service before. Obviously, I've heard of Piston Heads, but so it sounds good.
It looks really good. I think they've got some actually popular people there on the stage doing talks and stuff. I think Johnny's going to be there.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, quite some quite interesting folks are due to be there. I think it's a bit more aimed at the petrol head than the electro head, as the name Piston Heads suggests. But yeah, it looks like a really nice event. And I haven't done anything at Bicester Heritage before. I've never been there. So it'll be nice to go and check that out because it looks really cool.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to one of their Sunday scrambles, but there was one the other day, I think a few weeks ago. It was absolutely fully booked up, so it's a bit unfortunate, but yeah.
But if you want to go to this, I could try and see if I can get you in, because I'm obviously a massively influential
man.
sorry, I can't say it. I can't say it with a straight face. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to what we've been driving as well. So I had the Mercedes E-Citan. I had two vans back to back. Had the Nissan Townstar and then Mercedes. The Mercedes, the Renault, and the Nissan were all basically the same vehicle. But I was super surprised on how different and how refined Mercedes had made the Citan. Obviously, the pricing is very similar. There's a couple £1,000s in it, but like such a different vehicle. I drove the Nissan to London and back, and it was a little bit noisy, a little bit slightly unrefined as well. But the Mercedes just feels like a car. It just feels so posh and just so nice. So I think Mercedes have knocked out the park with that one. Fab vehicle.
I had the. I'm going to call it the E-Citan because I'm going to say it correctly.
Okay.
So that's called passive aggression. So yeah, I had it a while ago and filmed a review for it a while ago, but it's going on Men and Motors, so I have absolutely no idea when they'll release it. But yeah, I think in that my big takeaway is it just feels like you're driving a car.
Yeah,
and it's quiet, like all the things you usually associate with driving a little van. It's even quite well soundproofed and stuff, and you don't get.
I noticed that.
Usually, when you're driving a van, you get a real sort of rattly echo coming from the back, don't you? Particularly when it's empty.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. Yeah, I drove up to the Cotswolds in that for I think I went to the iX2 launch in that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. And it was great. Like long drives.
Yep.
I found it much more efficient at 60 miles an hour than at 70.
Yes.
But you shouldn't be doing 70 in a commercial vehicle anyway, really, you know.
No.
But yeah, it was just a really, really nice piece of kit.
Yep. Like, you could complain about the range, but then again, they're not designed for... their target audience or target market is city deliveries and, like, larger town deliveries. Yeah. Once you start taking out of its comfort zone, you notice that it's the range is a bit limiting, but it's not designed for that. And the charging speed as well, because I noticed its charging curve is it's got a sharp drop off. It will ramp up and then just drop off completely. And also, one thing I noticed, which was I don't know if I mentioned it in the video, the Nissan does not tell you how fast the vehicle's charging. The Mercedes does. So, yeah.
It's so strange, isn't it?
I know. Really weird. And weird things like the Mercedes doesn't have wireless CarPlay, but the Nissan did. There's just some weird little differences between them all. But I think the Mercedes is great. There are some interesting lease deals on the Nissan and the Renault. I think you can get some of them for about $140 a month, but the Mercedes is like £400-500 on Lease Loco. So,
did you look at those after clicking through my link to Lease Loco that's on my website notaguru.co.uk?
I've got that link bookmarked actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So there you go.
Did you like how I seamlessly put that one in there?
It's so seamless. I don't think anyone noticed that.
No, I don't. No. So I've been driving sort of the great and the good of late. So I've had the new Tesla Model 3. I had the BYD Seal, the Kia EV9, and this week I've got the Audi Q8 e-tron.
Oh, look at you.
And yeah I know. Yeah. Next month it's not looking quite as exciting, to be honest. Okay. But yeah, so it's been fantastic. The Model 3, I said in the video, and I still say it to this day, is the best electric vehicle currently available. And I will stand by that until I drive a better one. I think everything about it is fantastic. Obviously, it doesn't have an indicator stalk, which is completely fine in America because in normal use, it works. But we have roundabouts in the UK, and when you want to take the third exit and then indicate left, and your indicator's now somewhere else, it's rubbish. They just should have kept the stalk. I don't see that. I think it's progress for the sake of progress rather than anything else. And people have said in the comments, well, they're doing it to save money because, they want fewer parts and blah, blah, blah. Honestly, the cost of an indicator stalk versus the cost of those buttons, I don't see there's a cost saving personally. Then I've had the BYD Seal. I am going to put together a sort of a compilation video actually with the Model 3, the BYD Seal, the Polestar 2 and the Ioniq 6.
Okay.
Obviously I'm not Whatcar, so I'm not going to have all 4 cars at once. So I'm just going to put together a bit of archive, sorry, a bit of windy pops there, a bit of sort of clips from all my different reviews, and I'll probably do some voiceover on it. But I feel like they're probably quite close rivals. I would like to put the ID7 in there, but I haven't had one to kind of compare it to. But the BYD Seal is a very good car. And spoiler alert, it's just not as good as the Tesla. That's my opinion. But what it is a really great alternative to the Tesla. You know, some people despise Tesla.
I know.
Like a friend of mine who's got his Android phone, and every time he sees me pick up my iPhone, you know, tries to beat me to death with my own shoes. Tesla has that thing where it's kind of loved by many but hated by more, and people think as soon as you drive a Tesla, you're trying to, you know, virtue signal and all the rest of the nonsense that goes with it. So the Seal, I think, is a really good alternative. There are a couple of things that could be slightly better with it, but certainly I don't know, it's just a really good all-round car. For me, the biggest problem is that over here, because of all our taxes and tariffs and duties, the entry-level Seal is 46 grand and the entry-level Model 3 is 40 grand. Now, in other markets, it's significantly cheaper than the Model 3. I've got a few people that watch from Australia and New Zealand, and they've said, well, over here it's 15 grand cheaper than the Tesla. And then it makes a massive difference. However, I think I said in the video, I think it's probably not going to be so much of an issue as the RRP appears to be on paper, because I think the BYD Seal will have some fantastic lease deals. So that's maybe where it's going to do well. The other thing is, in the UK, we just struggle to deal with an unfamiliar name badge, and a lot of people will only buy a car where they're familiar with the brand, which is why you know, I think I've said before on the podcast, but I'd like to see more of these new entrants perhaps trying to buy some more established brands like MG did. Kia
I think I read
EV9.
Sorry, I think I read somewhere that I don't think it's Morris Commercial, but I think part of SAIC is going to relaunch the Morris Minor as an EV.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's sort of
a great idea.
Yeah, it was like bringing back old brands. Like you got a whole roster of brands like TVR's, I think, on tits up again. So you could do something with that. And it's a good point, to be fair.
You look at brands like Genesis, you know, they've tried to, obviously they've done really well in the US.
Oh yeah.
And here, let's face it, they've struggled a bit despite having some absolutely fantastic cars.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's bizarre. I don't know quite why we have that. Why would you rather buy a Vauxhall than a BYD? I don't know.
Yeah.
Kia EV9, an absolute monstrous vehicle. It's huge. It's absolutely brilliant. I loved it. Like, really loved it. I'm not really 100% SUV man, and I enjoyed that car a lot. The only thing that sort of lets it down a bit, really, the fact it keeps binging and bonging at you, and you have to go through the screen to turn that off every time. But of course, that's something we're going to be seeing on every single new car before too long.
Yep.
And yeah, this week I've got the Q8 e-tron, which I haven't done enough mileage in yet, to be fair, but initially disappointing range, absolute class vehicle. Like, it feels like an Audi when you get in it. It feels like an Audi should, but the range is not outstanding.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. I've heard that about the Audi electric cars, like the Q4 as well. I've heard the range is just a bit meh on them. So
yeah, they're not massively efficient. And yeah, that one's, I think it's about 250 is the official, but I mean, I've just been out in it this morning, local traffic, and I got 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour. So,
okay,
but we'll see.
Yeah,
too early to judge at the moment.
Fair enough. Yeah, about the Model 3, I think I mentioned on the show before. I drove that for half an hour. That's just it's so good. The BYD Seal, I drove that for 45 minutes at one of the drive days. Again, that's fab. Really, really soft and everything. I haven't driven the other two, but no, they've got some good videos coming up, so it sounds good.
I thought the Seal, by the way, I had it in this really nice sort of gunmetal grey colour. I can't remember the name of it, but it looked absolutely outstanding, and it looked head and shoulders above the Model 3.
Yep.
And again, that's another reason why people don't want a Tesla Model 3. They want a car with a proper interior, as they call it. They want a speedo in front of them, and they don't like the way it looks. Well, the BYD Seal offers all that.
Yeah, we're an interesting bunch when it comes to cars, but it comes to buying cars. So.
Yeah, strange. Yeah. Tribal.
Yeah, I think so. Okie doke. Before we get into the EV news this month, I was going to say this week, just a quick reminder to review the show. If you can, please give us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. It really does help this podcast out, and we're trying to grow this show, so thank you.
If you don't, by the way, Alex is going to come round and beat you with a rubber hose.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually, some people are into that, so forget that.
Yeah.
Let's strike that from the record.
I can't offer that this time. Okie doke. We mentioned BYD a second ago, but I'm glad they're going to do this because I was hoping for them to announce this sort of news. The BYD Seagull, otherwise, in some of the countries it's known as the BYD Dolphin Mini for some reason, but the BYD Seagull, it's going to come to the UK. The BYD UK division have said they're really, really keen to have it here, and BYD China, someone spoke to some directors or some high up people at the Beijing Auto Show, and they said that yes, it's going to come to the UK. Like what you mentioned with the tariffs, it won't be the price it's sold for in China, unfortunately. It's sold for about £8,000 equivalent in China, but I don't know what the percentages of the tariffs that they do, but maybe 15k, maybe a little bit more than that. But when you compare, if it is 15k, you compare it to the Dacia Spring, this sounds like it's a lot better option for you. So I'm stoked.
This looks like a proper car, does it not?
Yeah.
And yeah, if they could do, I mean, I feel like that's going to end up being 18-20.
Okay.
If it comes here, but who knows? But even at that, compared to that Dacia, it looks like outstanding value.
Yeah, 100%.
The Dacia is cheap, but I don't think it's value.
No. So all the reviews I've watched of the Seagull, there's a guy in China called Wheels Boy. I think he's an American guy that does car reviews in China, and he said it was really, really impressive. So just to reel off some headline stats for those who don't know about it, we've got a 30 kilowatt and 38 kilowatt battery pack. The 30 kilowatt would do 190 miles of range, and then the 38 kilowatt would do 252. I don't know if that's based on the Chinese equivalent of the WLTP, which I've heard is a bit optimistic, but 200 miles of range, I reckon. But that looks great. It's
not really fair like WLTP then.
But yeah, it's got the rotating screen like we've seen in the Seal and the Dolphin. But I'm happy that they're doing it because we need some cheaper, good EVs. And if it's a BYD, it will have that really, really solid battery pack that they're known for. It will have some really cool tech in it. So I quite like the look of it. Looks a little bit angry, but I quite like it. So
yeah, I really like it actually. It's got a bit of character. It's not just a cookie cutter, is it?
No, it definitely looks good. And it's people might not like it because it's a little bit small inside, but I think it's just equivalent to the Up. Like the boot space looks equivalent to the Up, what I'm used to. It's a bit small. You're not going to have your family in there, but for one or two people, that's great. And as an alternative to the Spring, I think that's a good one. So we should get that pretty soon.
I think it's got more of a chance as well with an unfamiliar badge on.
Yes.
A cheap car, small car, city car, it's got much more of a chance than, a car that's 50 grand, for example, or 100 grand if you look at the U8 as an example. So yeah, it'd be really good to see that on the roads over here.
Yeah, that makes me think actually, because I haven't put it in the show notes, but the Cyberster has gone on sale this week or last week for like 50-something thousand pounds. All the comments I saw on social media were like, "Oh, that's too expensive for an MG." That's people's perception, and what you just said there. Yeah, that was what you just said there. Sort of reminded me of those comments, because they can't quite see it. So, yeah,
it's difficult as well, because MG so far, they've made cars to a price, and they've been. I mean, it is a budget brand at the moment, as it stands.
Yep.
The new stuff from MG is not budget. And I'm not just talking about the price. I'm talking about the overall quality.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm yet to drive any of it, but certainly from the 3 or 4 different cars that I saw in Geneva that we don't have available to us over here, including the Cyberster, they felt like rivals to the Germans.
Yep.
They didn't feel like rivals to the Chinese.
Yep.
So it's like maybe they should have done yet another different brand, but I guess they want to use that MG thing. But it'd be interesting to see if that means the MG brand's going to differ in future. Will they stop doing the cheaper stuff and move into more premium, or will they try and be a bit of an everyman? But it's difficult when you're selling cheap and cheerful alongside real premium. And if you look at the MG9, for example, I mean, that's a rival to an S-Class.
Yeah, it looked fab in your video, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those who haven't watched it, check out Tom Ford's review on Top Gear. He went to China to go and drive the Cyberster. And that video was so well put together and so laid back in its approach. It was just really enjoyable to watch. But he was dead impressed with that vehicle. He called it not a sports car; it's more of a GT car. But he said it handled really well, and it's a really good car. So I'll put those in the show notes. But check that video out; it was good. So cool. I don't know if you've probably seen this. I think it made the news a few weeks ago. Tesla have sold about 3,500 Cybertrucks in the US, and all of them have been recalled. It's not a software recall that the US government makes Tesla do, where they don't actually have to give any cars back. It's just a software update. This is actually a physical issue. Basically the metal cover up on the accelerator pedal it got dislodged. I guess it's glued on, and it became trapped underneath the bit of the trim where you're in front of your feet, and it basically jammed the accelerator on. So Tesla doing a 15-minute quick fix, then putting a rivet in the bottom of it, basically to hold it in place. But it's a bit unfortunate, because it just makes people think, oh, these are stupid, these are useless. But but no, from what I've seen, these are really good. So I've put the details. If you are listening to this podcast in the US and do have a Cybertruck, there's some details of how to contact Tesla and get that fixed if you need to. But it's a bit worrying. I've never had a car jam on an accelerator. I'm not sure if you have, but I bet it's quite distressing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Especially in an electric car where you can't turn it off or do anything else.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one as well, because Tesla, that most people, when I was talking to friends and neighbours and stuff that were asking about the new Model 3 when it was outside, like, oh, the build quality though, and like the build quality's bloody brilliant. Like it's built. That new Model 3 feels like you could drop a nuke in there and it's going to survive. Gone are the old days of Teslas having rattles and things like that. And certainly my Model Y is the same. I mean, the build quality on it is superb. But they've got that reputation, and once you get that reputation, it's difficult to shift. And something like this just feeds nonsense news stories, doesn't it? And I don't know, I feel like EV manufacturers need to be better than everyone else, unfairly. But as soon as there's anything like this, certain people are going to jump all over it.
The Cybertruck's done quite well, I think. They've got some lofty production goals. A lot of celebs in the US have been posting this on Instagram and stuff, just them sat next to it or stood with it or in a car park or something. It's quite a I can't think of any examples. It's maybe like the iPhone when it was new. It's like a status thing, I think, or like a cultural icon. Maybe not quite yet, but it's more of a thing to look at, I think. which is quite a popular thing.
Yeah.
So, no, I think they're doing quite well. And again, I'll reference the Top Gear YouTube channel again. They had a preview of the off-road software mode for the car. It's got a load of Baja modes and drift modes and things that are coming soon. I don't know the full details, but again, I'll put that in the show notes. That looks quite impressive. They're taking the off-roadness of it quite seriously, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay. We'll stop mentioning Tesla in a minute. We've got one more piece of news. This doesn't really affect you that much, but it's quite good news. So, if you want to use the Tesla Supercharging membership, if you want to use the Tesla Supercharging network as a non-Tesla owner in Europe or the UK, you can get cheaper rates by paying £10.99 a month to access those cheaper rates. And those cheaper rates are, I think, the same as what you would pay in a Tesla, if not maybe 1 or 2 pence more. But it works out really well if you're using it. I think I calculated when I charged a couple of times in the Nissan Townstar that I probably paid £2 more overall, but I didn't really charge that much. But if you work it out, it will add up over time. The headline news is that Tesla basically dropped the price of the monthly fee. So it's gone down to £9.99 a month in the UK. And if you want to pay upfront yearly, 90 quid, and it works out to £7.50 a month. And you get those cheap rates. Some of them go as cheap as 22p a kilowatt hour. Some place in London does, some place in Bristol does that as well. Then they are significantly cheaper than GridServe at the motorway services. And I regularly see them empty. So much as it might annoy Jim to say, but go and try them because they work really well. So go and try those out.
Please don't.
Please don't. No,
like I got 35p last time I charged on one, and it was a bit near either a GridServe or an Instavolt, I can't remember which, that was 90p or 89p.
Yep.
And I mean, it's night and day difference, isn't it?
So at the moment, GridServe is 79p from memory, Instavolt's 85p. There's a Shell one near me somewhere. They've just increased their pricing from 85 to 89p for their rapid chargers.
Yeah, they're having a laugh.
And there are 2 motorway services which I've seen, like Reading and Frankly Services, which have got Tesla V4s next to competitors, and they are, if not half the price or less. So, and just do some simple maths before you plug in. Like, I think I worked out that to charge one of the vehicles I had, I think it was £30 more to charge it from 0 to full on GridServe versus Tesla. So, it really does make a big difference. And yeah.
Are they all open yet to other brands, or is it still just some?
It's some. So it's a slow rollout. So any new stations that are built now are going to be V4, and they're all going to be open to everyone. And then the V3s, it's basically ones that have capacity. So if you've got a small station, they're not going to open it up. But some of the V3s that have excess capacity, they'll open them up. But if you go on the Tesla website, have a look, you can see which ones are being built soon. There's quite a lot in Scotland which are being built. Scotland is famously was famously poor for EV charging. There are tons of Tesla superchargers up there now. So
right,
just to negate any worries that people might have. So
this is why they used. Do you remember a year or two ago there was a load of news that it was either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and it was Gretna Services, like a massive queue at the Tesla superchargers, and obviously all the usual places that want to discredit EVs ran with that. And what they obviously failed to tell you is that that's the last supercharger for however many hours on that particular route, and it was probably like the biggest gap in the UK in terms of the network, and that's obviously been filled now. But it's something when people. I had a call with someone the other day who was saying, I don't know about moving to EV yet, and basically booked a call with me to talk about is it right for him or not. And that was one of the first things he brought up. We sort of see these massive queues at charging stations, even a Tesla one. I mean, it was like 2 hours. And, so anyway, the every week that rolls by, there are new fast chargers being installed around the country, and importantly, some slower ones as well.
Yeah. No, the slow ones are more important because I used Well, I had Honda CRV plug-in hybrid. I got that this week, and I went to the CV show, plugged it into the BP chargers there, and I did something wrong. It didn't actually work, but that availability is there, so it's really good for those sort of things. So, talk about stories which are blown out the water. Actually, I didn't put it in the show notes, but I think Quentin Wilson shared something. There were stories a while ago about EVs making potholes, and the Daily Mail have come out and said they made those stories up. Yeah, it's like
but of course, when they have to print something like that, it's like 2 lines at the bottom of a page and you can't really see it.
I know.
Versus the headline.
Yep.
It was the headline probably one day, or a huge, they make a huge deal out of it, and then when they put one of those apologies in, you probably wouldn't be able to find it if you were paid.
No, ridiculous. Oh well. Last bit of long form news is the new Alfa Romeo Junior. Just to quote you, the artist formerly known as the Milano. This was unveiled about the 12th of the 12th of April as the Milano, and due to some political fallout from Alfa Romeo and the Italian government, they've had to rename it to the Junior. I think basically because it's not made in Italy. I think they had a bit of a upset about that. So, oh well. But just
I don't know if you saw Nicola Hume's video on that.
I haven't yet.
It's quite funny.
Is it?
So she just had all the names on her hand, like with a line through something. Then there was Milano, and then there was like Dave. And that was crossed out.
Oh god. Yeah, she's very funny. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
The Junior. So I think it looks quite cool. There's some people saying it looks a bit ugly, but headline stats, it's a Stellantis vehicle, so it's a C4 Fiat 600 Jeep Avenger sort of thing, Peugeot 2008. A lot of the specs are pretty similar. So we've got the usual 54 kilowatt battery pack that they use, 100 kilowatt rapid charging, 255 miles, usual sort of stuff. But I think it looks quite good. It should be quite a reliable car because it's an EV. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So
yeah, it'd be nice to be able to get reliable Alphas, wouldn't it?
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. The drive and the look of Alphas appeals to me massively. But would I want to own one? Probably not.
No. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So interesting car. I'm not sure when that's going on sale. I couldn't find out much detail about that, but I guess it'll be announced soon. So awesome. We've got some news in the lightning round that are from further afield, from not the UK. So the first bit is FastNed. I've used FastNed chargers once or twice. They seem pretty good actually. I like the design of their forecourts. I don't know if you used them when you went to Germany in the Ioniq, but they're pretty good.
No, we just used Ionity only on that trip because we had a sponsor that gave us like an Ionity card, basically.
That's right, yeah. But this news is FastNed have opened its own motorway service station, so sort of following in the heels of GridServe, they've got their own branded motorway service station, and this is part of a big rollout in Belgium. So I think they're rolling out about 20-something of them. This has got a FastNed branded cafe, and FastNed branded everything there. And they've got 34 of them opening soon in Belgium, and Germany as well. This location, there are 8 CCS2 chargers with 300 kilowatt, and then the pricing's around 49 pence when converted. So they've got some cheap rates, and it made me have a look on ZapMap, and the rate that they're being charged in Belgium and Germany and France for charging is so low compared to ours. It's not fair.
And what a massive surprise, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Belgium as well, like, what a place to drive.
Is it good?
The roads are like, oh god, yeah. You know, when you visit some countries and you feel like the inhabitants of that country are just better people than we are. Like if you go to Scandinavia or something, you just think, I think these might be slightly a more evolved part of the human race than we are.
Oh dear.
But yeah. just a nice place to be, and yeah, love it.
Yeah, so these look pretty good, to be fair. If you are travelling in Belgium, they are on the E19 in, I'm gonna butcher this, Brecht, Belgium, between Antwerp and Breda. So it's an electric car only service station, so you can't refuel petrol or diesel. But it's called the Motorway Service Station of the Future. So pretty good. I put a ZapMap link in the article if you want to check that out. It's quite hard to find, actually. But yeah. The other bit of news, again, it's more forecourt, more motorway service station stuff. GridServe they've commenced work on their 5th forecourt. That started on the 15th of April. So the 5th one. So they've currently got one in Braintree, Norwich, London Gatwick Airport, and this one says under construction. Stevenage is the other one that's under construction, but now Markham Vale, and GridServe is hoping to open it by the end of 2024. So I'm happy they're doing this, because not only do they serve as a good place for charging, they also serve as a good place for trying out EVs, which is really important. So.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
good news. Yeah, we need more of them, don't we?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that GridServe charge so much for charging, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, but I guess that comes with it. At least they're giving you some facilities. You know, unlike a lot of them. I tried to charge at a Shell in Chipping Norton the other week, and failed because the thing just didn't work.
Yep.
And once again, you're out in the pouring rain. It's not covered, no light in there or anything like that. All a bit naff. It was ridiculously expensive and didn't work.
Yep.
And you think, I don't know. If you don't have access to cheaper charging and you have to use a GridServe, at least you are getting some facilities for it. So
yeah. Yeah, I mentioned in the article, GridServe charge about 79p a kilowatt hour, and they've also got some slow chargers at 49p a kilowatt hour. It's on the higher end of the price, really. But just for location-wise, this one's on junction 29A on the M1, in between Chesterfield and Bolsover. So, yeah. And then, very lastly, on the lightning round news, this is for our US listeners. The Ford Mustang Mach-E has had a little bit of a refresh in the US. So they've dropped the GT Performance model from the lineup. You can only now get the GT, but the Performance is now available as an optional extra. So I guess they didn't think it was worth having as a standalone model. And Ford has also added a bigger battery pack, the specs of which aren't yet available, but they have noted that the performance has been increased, and the 0-60 time is now faster than a Model Y Performance and the Porsche Macan 4 Electric. They were quick to note that was the case, so I guess they're keeping up with the times. But the reviews of that Porsche are out soon, I think, or have been out already. It looks pretty good, I think. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? Like the race for the sort of bracket rights for 0-62 times. Cause they're all getting a bit silly, aren't they, really?
A bit dangerous, yeah.
I think, yeah, and do you need anything more than 4 or 5 seconds to 62, which is, you know,
not really.
When I was growing up, supercars didn't perform like that. And in a car where you've also got an iPad Pro essentially next to you, to distract you and all that kind of stuff. I know there's loads of safety systems and everything else, but I wonder if we're getting to the point where possibly some of the performance could be left to a track mode, which they could geofence or something. So you can only use it if you're at a track, because it is getting a little bit daft. It is a bit, and there's videos. I think there's a video going around ages ago of a Taycan that sort of leapt off somebody's driveway, just because they pressed the wrong pedal. It's just, they're a bit too fast, some of them, but they are quite good fun though. So yeah, definitely they are. So yeah, if you're in the market for a Mustang Mach-E in the US, there's basically like a mild facelift or mild spec bump and bigger batteries and things. So fab. I think that's everything for this month, Jim. Anything else you'd like to mention? I don't think so. I think I've probably plugged enough in this one. But yeah, I will just say to people, please, spread the word about this. Please post and share wherever you can. Yep. And please leave us a review on. I know Alex has already asked, but please do leave us reviews wherever you can, because it all helps. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. You know.
Yeah.
Every little helps, as Tesco say.
Yeah, it definitely does help. We made the charts, I think we're number 38 yesterday on the UK Automotive podcast. We seem to go up right the way down into the depths of nowhere and then back up again, like to 30, 22. So we do come and go on the charts, but it would be nice to have some more positive feedback of the show if possible, and just let your friends know.
Yeah, but
fantastic.
Alex just added the word positive. Only leave us, feedback and reviews if it is positive, please. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be honest. That's what we're asking for. Dishonest reviews of the show.
Awesome. Thanks for listening or watching this episode of the Charging Status podcast. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For a full description of this show, visit the episode link in the show notes. Thanks again, Jim, for joining me on this show. Where can people find you online?
The best place to go is to my website, which is notaguru.co.uk, and you'll find links to just about everything in the header of the website.
You can find the interface at theinterface.uk. Links are in the show notes. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye-bye.